Welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. Today, we're continuing prep for what is set to be the most crowded summer league schedule we have had yet, with additional leagues, additional teams. And to get into that, we are joined by a Best 11 USL W League defender from last year, of Minnesota Aurora, one of their captains, Makenzie Langdok. Kenzie, thanks for joining.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So we chatted a bit before, but so for before we started, but for the people watching, catch us up just on the Aurora season ended a long time ago. So how have you been staying
Yeah,
in the game? What have you been up to?
it has been a while. Been quite a few months now. So I was hoping to be playing abroad, hoping to
Hmm.
get on a team over there, but
Hmm.
didn't work out. So I am still here in Minnesota.
Hmm.
I'm working at Pura Vida, which is like a soccer training facility
Hmm.
place in Brooklyn Park. So
Hmm.
I work there training kids, doing little foot skills stuff, sorry, SIQ sessions, that kind of stuff. And then
Hmm.
I also have been training there there's a bunch of coaches who are kind of in the same boat as me. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have a group to train with, but definitely missing playing on a team and excited to be back.
Yeah. Pure Vida is a very cool space. I visited there once and they have a lot of it's like former Costa Rican youth national
Hmm.
men's players. And then
Yeah.
Annie Williams, who's a cool Minnesotan player who plays in Italy right now. I know she spent time in between. It's a cool thing for players like you. They seem to make it somewhat flexible. So it's like a way
Yeah.
for you to branch into coaching and do what you need to do to stay in the game.
For sure. I actually got to train with Annie this winter when she was back
Yeah.
for a little bit for Christmas. So it's fun
Uh-huh.
to play with her, train with like Will Trapp and like players like
Yeah.
that. It's a cool space to be in for sure.
Yeah, cool way of mixing the game because we have tons of men's and women's talent. So that is, yeah, it's a cool space too. Just a literal cool place with all the little pitches and the little, it's kind of like a soccer
Yeah,
team
like
warehouse. Yeah,
everything you could want in a
yeah,
soccer facility. You have boards, balls,
yeah.
nets, anything you could need. So it's perfect.
Did you want to share anything about when you talk about potentially having a pro experience? It's always a very nefarious thing. You're trying to, it's, can be fly by the seat of your pants, like end of
Hmm.
the transfer window. And there's a lot of leagues, and especially when you're trying to get your first type of chance like that. I don't know if you wanted to share any specifics or just in general what that was like for you having
Yeah.
to
So
wait out.
right after season ended, it's just kind of like a whirlwind because that's when the transfer window's open. It ends
Hmm.
like beginning of August. And so up until that point, I was hoping to be on a team. I was talking with Celtic over in Scotland and I had
Okay.
like my bags all packed up, my apartment ready to go,
Yeah.
and then just kind of fell through at the last minute. A couple more things here and there came up, but again, nothing
Yeah.
solid. So just kind of one of those scenarios that you have to be ready to go whenever.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, it's like, okay, I'll unpack all my stuff again.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, I think I'd heard maybe a whisper of that, like with Celtic, that's a cool thing because that's just a pretty big name in global
Mhm.
soccer. But on the one hand, obviously disappointing because you didn't get the opportunity you maybe hoped or
Mhm.
thought you deserved. But then I'm sure was a piece of it kind of validating in knowing would a team even look at me? Yeah, they will. Like
Yeah,
this is, and then it gives you the because you need the motivation then to get back to it.
for sure. For sure, especially when it is so long in between transfer windows and
Hmm.
between when transfer window ends and Aurora season starts
Yeah,
back up. So
yeah,
for sure, it's definitely motivating, um, frustrating at the same time. So it's just been
yeah,
a weird space to navigate, but
yeah.
has
And
been good for me as a person, I think too.
yeah. And the winter transfer window for women also is, I think it's even for men, it's a lot less active in the summer. And in women's, I think it's probably it's even less because there's not, or you're
Yeah.
signing on for such a short deal because,
Yeah. Yep.
people and, say you end up in a team battling in a bad spot, it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
It's either that or it's like you're filling in for somebody who got injured. And so it's
yeah.
always kind of like a,
It's not an ideal situation because it's
yeah.
the yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about last year. I think it's fun to think back when I've been getting ready for summer league and talking to some more people about Aurora and some of the other leagues. It's fun also to think back to last year because it was a really
Mhm.
cool, quick
Yeah.
couple months. But when you were going into it, what were your? Obviously, you talked about wanting to go pro, so that's obviously a big piece of it. You
Yeah.
wanted to be able to have it a step into the next level of your game. But what were your expectations of how of the success, and in terms of everything that you ended up coming, did you'd played for the Thunder and WPSL, that's much
Mhm.
more of a training focused environment as
Yep.
a priority. So I'm just curious, like, how much were your expectations blown?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could have expected anything close to what last summer was
Yeah,
because, I mean, we were bringing in more fans than we did at Gopher games, and so
totally.
that's like that was kind of going into it. I'm like, well, we're playing in this big stadium, so it's got to be like, it's gonna be really cool. And I could never imagined selling it
Yeah,
out game after game and
yeah.
playing in front of that many people, and like
Hmm.
even just the team in general. Like we played some really good soccer, especially towards the
Yeah.
end of the season. Like we
Hmm.
worked really well together. We were just rolling, and so I don't know that any of us expected that necessarily,
Yeah.
especially like coming into a whole new group of people. Like I
Hmm.
hadn't played on a new team in 5
Yeah.
years. You know what I
No.
mean? Like we got a few new players every year, but it was mostly the same team
Yeah.
year in year out. So
Yep.
I think it was it was awesome to be a part of, and
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could have expected how
Mhm.
well it went. Obviously, you hope it goes that well, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
expectations were blown out of the water for sure.
It's quick turnarounds. We talked of it before, and that's one of the challenges in the summer is you don't have a lot of time to prep. Some of the players came in the day before the game. Like,
Yeah,
it's like the wraps, it's like it was a happen. They were like maybe, maybe not, and I know they
yeah,
showed up, and
yeah,
um and so that was my next question actually, was just about Coach Lukic and her staff. Was That's something that was really impressive, was who they recruited, because it wasn't as if they just said whoever on a D1 roster we can get. It's like
yeah,
they had connections through the assistants, but then they also have players from every type of level in college, junior
mhm,
college, NAI, all every level. And
yeah,
so talk about that and how you were able to, how they, I guess, what role they did play in facilitating the chemistry, because it was good
yeah.
right away.
I think they did a really, really good job. As soon as the season started, we had like a bunch of team events where we would all
Yeah.
go to like Minnehaha Falls and like
Hmm.
had dinner there. We did like a picnic in the park over
Hmm.
by Minneapolis, and we did the United game. We had all of these
Hmm.
different options for us to like be able to get to know each other better because it was so quick. And then
Yeah.
outside of that, we ended up doing different things as a team just kind of on our own. Like
Hmm.
they had two Airbnb houses
Yeah.
last year, and so they had like all the girls over at one of the houses, and we had like a little bonfire, and there
Right.
was tennis courts right across the street. So we went and played like soccer tennis and
Uh-huh.
all of that kind of stuff. I think they did a good job, the coaches, of facilitating opportunities for us to get to know each other
Yeah.
better. And then I think everyone was like, wow, this is a really cool group of people with a ton of, like you said, really different college experiences from
Yeah.
like Cha and Mayu at JUCOs, and then
Hmm.
yeah, everything in between. So
Hmm.
it was a cool opportunity to like learn what other people's experiences were like. And I
Hmm.
think, I mean, we had two girls transfer to D1 schools after the season
Yeah.
because they like wanted
Yeah.
more of an experience like I think some of the other girls had. And so I think it was I think the coaching staff did a really good job of
Hmm.
bringing in players that would fit well together and that we could learn a lot from each other. So, yeah.
Yeah. Different skill sets, like varied skills. It was fun to see that. I mean, like the raps are like that, where all three of them have different specialties, which
Yeah.
is really maybe surprising. And
Mhm.
then you're like,
Yeah.
you have technical players, you had speed players. Maybe not as only maybe one thing you had a little less of was just like physical enforce. You had a couple players who were
Mhm.
really physically enforcing, but
Yeah.
and you didn't honestly you need that as much because you were more playing with the ball all the time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it
This
was
is
more
true.
like Morganstone and Addy or whoever coming up and scoring from
Yeah.
or banging from deep. What do you were there players that surprised you? I mean, we talked about the varying levels. So in terms of that, like you're like, everyone had fun watching Cha, and she's playing at Campbellsville, which
Mhm.
is NAIA, I think, or
Yeah.
D2.
Yep.
And so you're like, what the hell? She's great. And
Yeah.
Mariah Wynn is playing at St. Thomas now, but she had only played 1 year at Bemidji State. And then you had a
Yep.
bunch of people who hadn't played college yet. What
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think the level was surprising to me. Like seeing the rosters come in, I was like, oh, I like actually the soccer world is pretty small,
Yeah.
at least in the Midwest. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I actually don't know like
Yeah.
Mariah. I was like, "I don't know who Mariah is." And
Right.
then now it's like, "Okay, Mariah's great, and
Yeah.
she's super fast and is a great player to
Mhm.
have around." And
Mhm.
so I think it was cool to have different people with different abilities and skill sets,
Mhm.
and, like, just being able to play with people who come from different playing
Mhm.
backgrounds,
Yeah.
was, yeah, really cool.
Yeah. Was there a difference in terms of like, I don't know if that it's, you don't use the word ragtag because some of these programs are pretty big. Like Bemidji State's a really good D2 school, like your players from South Dakota State, that's a good mid-major
Yeah.
program. But um
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sure it was exciting to see how everyone can stand out. And then obviously the exposure of that gave the
Mhm.
people bigger
Yeah.
chances, to
Yeah.
safe to say, I'm sure that helped, Taylor Kane get her transfer to Iowa and everything like that.
Yeah.
Um, what do you remember? So you talked about the response in the stadium. I
Mhm.
remember the playoffs at even elevating every level, and I had
Mhm.
a COVID spurt where I wasn't in person at the beginning, but I was at the
Okay.
final, and so it was like so crazy. What
Yeah.
do you remember about the playoff run and the momentum of like the team overall at that point?
Yeah. I think we were peaking at the right time as a
Mhm.
team. Like,
Mhm.
we knew how everyone was gonna play. Like, everyone has their different things. Like,
Mhm.
I know that Morgan Turner, I'm going to play her in behind because she's super fast and is going to beat anybody that she's running against 1v1. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, I think we knew what to expect from different players and we knew how to play to everybody's strength.
Mhm.
And at that point, we were also used to having that many fans because
Yeah.
I don't know, the first game of the season against Green Bay, I
Yeah.
think everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't hear anything. I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on."
Nerves.
It
Yeah.
was like
Players
super.
have universally admitted nerves, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, and, like, we weren't able to communicate, and, like,
Yeah.
everybody's, like, stress was just so much higher, and so I think by the
Yeah.
time the playoffs rolled around, you maybe saw that in other teams,
Yeah.
and I think we were able to
Mhm.
handle that better, and, like, obviously, it elevated the moment of
Mhm.
every game for us, like, it
Yeah.
made it infinitely cooler to be playing in front of that many people,
Mhm.
but I think we were able to handle the emotions that came with that
Yeah.
at that point, so
Yeah, that's part of the exposure too. I mean, and that is something that it makes it fun, more. The fans make it a fun experience for the fans. It also makes it a developmental opportunity for the players because that's
mhm,
what gives you another level of composure and playing. Because
mhm,
playing at by the way, I mean the Gophers have really intense games as
yeah,
well, but
yeah,
it is another level of scale too, having that many
yeah.
people. Um,
For sure.
do you remember? Okay, so I remember some people talking about getting a runner-up trophy. Are you glad that you got a trophy to at least, to show for the work, or you kind of like, screw it, that's not a real, you know?
I think it's good to get a trophy. I mean, it was cool to be in that position in the first place. Obviously,
Yeah,
the game should have, could have, would have
yeah,
won a different way on a
I
different
know.
night. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
um, I think it's tough thinking back about that game, but also like you have to
yeah,
keep it in perspective that we did have a fantastic season, and I think,
yeah.
like I said, on a different night, different day, I think we come away with a different result.
It's very close. I almost was gonna watch the highlights of it, and I was like, I don't want to watch those right now,
Yeah, I did
but
start to go back and rewatch it a couple
it's
months ago at this point, and I was like, "No."
I mean, they're still incredible play, and then it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
it was extremely exciting, yeah, and
yeah,
still a lot of good memories, and they were cool. I will say the medals are cool. They're heavy. They had a
they
good.
are. Yep.
They felt good. Like Wes, one of the founders, I might have told this story, but he gave it to his son because his son is super into soccer, and Emil was
That's
like,
cool.
I was like, Emil, do you still have that medal? He said, I don't get why I have it. He's smart. I was like, yeah,
That's funny.
it's okay. You're a
Yeah.
fan. You get it. Um,
Mhm.
so it started to get pretty hyped, obviously, by the middle. I mean, even in the opener, I think, there was Star Tribune coverage there, and I think some of the TV and everything. But then
Yeah.
it got like, I would say hype train status,
Mhm.
where it was like you players started appearing at like a concert or like MLS All Star in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
What event, especially now in the winter, the locals are getting all the shit. There
Right?
were players at the Wild last night.
I know, I had to work or else I would have been there.
What is nice. So, what was your favorite? You can say multiple. What's your favorite one of those off the field things you got to do?
I think the MLS All-Star weekend was super cool to
Yeah,
just, like, be a part of and, like,
yeah,
be able to go to, and it was cool that it was here in Minneapolis, obviously, but, like,
yeah.
also getting to, like, sit in the booth for the game and, like,
Cool.
go to the skills challenge things and, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was probably my favorite thing that we've got to do.
Yeah, I thought a
But
couple All Star was so fun because I work at the Black Card obviously, and all the
yeah,
people were coming through, and I was nerding out on all the people. But
yeah.
you and some of them, I think some of the players came in that weekend after getting to MC the concert at maybe Sarah
Yeah.
Fuller
Yep,
or
yep.
something.
I think we did come in there after
Yeah,
after the game, I think. Yep.
I mean that was a blast.
It was fun.
By the way, Coach Lukic, I've not seen Ken's in the black cart. It's not one time since then. She's only been training. It's all she's focused on is going pro.
Yep.
It's time for the black cart years later. Maybe we'll do a podcast. That would be the only reason.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, no, it was fun to watch y'all get to do that. And I mean, how much it's obviously it's good for the team and it's good for, whatever in terms of just getting community support. But
Mhm.
for you trying to be a professional soccer player, just how much did it mean for you in terms of like exposure of personal development too? Like you're
Yeah.
learning to do those types of things.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was really cool just to, like, have the exposure
Hmm.
that the season brought last year and then, like, get to have, like, the little benefits in the community
Hmm.
was something that I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
beforehand. Like, so yeah.
And like be interviewed, you're on TV, it's like your grandma
Yeah.
can watch Care 11 and see
Yeah, like,
you.
during the state fair, it was crazy. I was
Oh yeah, they had
happy
you
doing the
you
state fair
every
stuff.
yeah, they had you guys every yep, yep. Yeah, that
Mhm.
was fun. Lots of exposure. A lot of grumpy TV cameras not liking all of us dorks trying to get the questions in in the press conference, but Coach Lukic gives us the time. I'll
Yeah.
do a quick break to read an ad by our sponsor, Pentz Homes. This show is brought to you by Pentz Homes. Whether you're buying or selling or looking to do some projects in your current home, Nate and Lydia can help you find what you need. Need financing for a basement remodel, looking to add a second bath or even a workspace now that you're working from home? Pentz Homes and their preferred lender, Angie Shearer with Luminant Financing, can help find the right financing tool for you. Go to pentzhomes.com to learn more or find them on social media at Pentz Homes. I also wanted to say, spoiler alert, Kansas re-signed for 2023 for the people who are in the dark. We didn't
Mhm.
say this, but I think most people watching this probably are aware by now, but was it a tough decision for you? I think I know the
No.
answer, but
No. Not a tough decision at all. It's super fun, and I'm just so excited to be back with the
mhm.
mostly the same group of girls, a couple new faces,
Yeah.
but I think it's gonna be another awesome season. It was
Mhm.
a pretty easy decision for me.
Yeah. Is there a part of you when you are thinking of, looking to the pro opportunity that thinks, oh gosh, I should skip doing this and try in May and June to like tee up, whatever, a professional opportunity instead?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not as worried about that just because, like, I do know that the transfer window goes
Yeah.
until the end of July. And so most players, I feel like, are on break anyway
Yeah.
until that point. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, not super concerned about that. I think it'll be good for me to have
Yeah.
game experience should
Going into,
something come up,
yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
after season. So it'll be good to be game fit and be ready to go
Yeah.
if I do need to jump into a preseason right after. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, and there's no way there'll be less exposure from
yeah,
Aurora this summer.
true,
It could only
true.
go up. Were they on Sports Center top 10 like three times? It was a lot. It was a lot. It
Yeah.
was Morgan Stone, a couple others.
Mhm,
But yeah, well, exciting. But we're seeing, like you said, a lot of people returning from last year's
mhm.
second place campaign. How much, it is a core. I'm sure you'll lose some. We'll mention Sarah Fuller a bit later. But how much do you think you'll benefit from that? Because we already talked about it being brand new. A couple players with partnerships here or there. How much better could we see you with the teenagers getting a year older and having the core back together?
Yeah, so I think you'll see a lot of growth from, like, the Raps specifically and, like, Mariah
Mm-hmm.
and Taylor Kane who are, like, moving
Right.
to D1
Right.
programs and
And like
have
Shelby, I think hadn't played yet. Maybe. Yeah.
yeah, yep,
Or when.
and so I think them having a year of D1 training
Yeah.
day in, day out, I think is going to be really good for them. And I'm excited to see like how they've grown as
Yeah.
players individually
Mhm.
once we get back. So that'll be really fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. No, it is exciting. And like, someone like Bayless Flynn, who she was in high school and not a junior or senior, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And now is with just the summer with Aurora, the fall, so much with her club still probably. So yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be exciting to see the growth of everybody. Um,
Yeah.
and then speaking of recruiting, I mean, we mentioned Nicole's job last year, which
Mhm.
it wasn't flashy per se signings. You and Morgan Turner probably the most like high profile, I'd say, I guess, and Sarah Fuller in terms of like high level D1 experience. But we've already seen some players like with some pro experience or coming
Yeah.
in this spring. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've mentioned this, I think, but going to the open tryout in December, not well, yeah, the tryout in December, and talking to Nicole when I asked her, the difference in recruiting, she just had the biggest smile on her face.
Yeah.
The difference in recruiting for this year is huge.
Yeah.
And so how much when you're seeing like those new players come in, how much do you hear about it? Or do you even, do you try to ask Nicole, or do you try to talk to other players?
I mean, I think we talked to other players here and there. Like I have the girls that I was closer with
Yeah.
in the last season, and like I know that Abby O has like played college ball with
Yeah.
one of the girls, and she was
Mm.
like, yeah, she's
Hmm.
like really good.
Hmm.
And so I'm excited to like not only get to play with those players, but also get to hear a little bit about what their pro experience was like,
Yeah.
and just learn a little bit more from them
Mhm.
and how it went on their side of things and what to expect and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be cool
Mhm.
for myself and other players who want to play pro,
Yeah.
um, to like learn from them and
Mhm.
like see what their play is like at that level. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I think it'll be cool. I'm excited
Yeah.
that we have those higher profile players coming in.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a cool thing for Aurora.
Yeah. Good for the depth. And I mean,
Mhm.
one of the things with you're one of the captains along, Sarah Fuller was as well. She's retired and she's not gonna do probably big things in the business side of the world, about
Yeah.
the soccer world. Talk a little bit about just your leadership role last year, and then also kind of what you get out of obviously those new players will be, I mean, probably a big part of that, having to be the other
Yeah.
players like you with most experience.
Yeah, so last year coming in, I feel like I'm a pretty vocal player, and I
Mhm.
think one of the easiest things to do to get on the same page when you're in a group of entirely new people
Mhm.
is to communicate, and so I think that's something that
Yeah.
came pretty easy for me last year and allowed me to have like the leadership role that I did. Um, and I don't foresee myself changing how I play and communicate as a player. But I do think like we have a bunch of players with like leadership experiences from their
Yeah.
colleges now, and
Mhm.
we have all of these pro girls coming in. So I think it'll be good to have more players like that who are willing to lead and willing to like put themselves out there in that way. And I think it'll be good for us as a team as well.
Yeah. Well, it seemed, I mean, like I said, to whatever extent you can play without egos, it certainly seemed like when you saw, like, in offensive output's only a piece of it, but like people shared the ball, like there was a
Mhm.
lot of people contributing, people,
Yeah.
I think in terms of the positive nature of supporting each other, the celebrations were
Yeah.
apparent.
Yep.
So, well, have you ever been on a team where I mean, college is different. I guess they don't allow it at the same level. Have you ever been on a team that allowed celebrating at that level?
No. And I wasn't sure how to navigate that, to be,
Yeah.
like, totally honest. I was
Yeah.
like, "I don't know.
Like, do you need
I
to
don't
say
know."
something to Mariah after she does the fishing thing, or is Nicole cool with it, you mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, I know. I was like, "Was that planned? Where did that come from?" I
of
was not.
course it was planned. They were all planned.
Yep. So, um,
That's great.
that was a new experience for me, and I definitely made it fun, but I think at some point I was like, are we okay with this? Is this happening? You know what I mean? Like, didn't know how the coaches were gonna react, all of
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah,
isn't it?
it was funny.
Well, I put it on Nicole. I was like, that's cool. That it would be
Yeah,
the coach who would say no, and
yeah,
you understand, but there's something to the fact that like this is pre-professional. We have fans in the stands. It's not
yeah,
like it's people paid to come watch this. It's like
and
having. I'm
it's
always for
fun, yeah,
celebrations. Yeah. Um, I love that. How much, and you weren't super, how involved were you? I don't remember you being,
Not very.
you're not one of the ones just constantly throwing like dancing at all points of the game.
No,
There's a
no,
lot of
not
that.
that's not me.
We talked about the coaches. I mean, recruiting really good in building the culture. Part of that culture is like allowing the fun of celebrations. I think it did build probably team culture too, aside
Yeah,
from really good highlights. Brenna made that great super cut at one point.
yeah,
And yeah, great material. Brenna, talk about them just in terms of on the field. 'Cause like you said, you guys played well after that first game with Nerves. It was like off and running, goals,
yeah,
undefeated. What, you've played under a lot of high level women's coaches, or a
yep,
couple other ones, at least in D1. What made this staff unique in that way, like in terms of the field product?
yeah. I think before the season started, we had quite a few meetings, and we will again this year. We'll have like small group meetings to talk about like what are our goals as a club, what are our goals individually,
Uh-huh.
how do we want to play, how do we want to defend, all
Hmm.
of that kind of stuff. And so I think they did a really good job from the get go of setting out like this is how we want to play and these are like the things that we're going to do defensively and this is what
Hmm.
we're going to look for offensively. And then I mean each coach kind of had their own section. So Jenny
Yeah.
always coached us defenders,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Nicole and Jen got the midfielders and forwards, and then obviously you have Cassie with the goalkeepers. And
Yeah.
so I think just the structure of it allowed the
Yeah.
coaches to really focus on their specific line and what their job was in
Yeah.
different scenarios. And I think that allowed us to um, be really organized because we
Mhm.
knew what the expectations were. And so I think the coaching staff did a really good job
Yeah.
of that. And also allowing us to be like free flowing
Yeah.
in the attack and all that kind of stuff. Like, obviously, there's room to bring out what you do well individually. And I think they did a really good job of making sure we knew that as well.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely seemed people had the freedom to do what they want and could showcase. They found the roles for people to showcase their abilities. It's like
Mhm.
where it's like you had yeah, like Mariah getting to do her best, which is just to run and drive at people.
Mhm.
Putting Shaw in the middle and having the ball go through her because she
Yeah.
did so well. And then rotating the forwards until both of them, all of them got going.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, yeah. Patient, yeah, like Morgan Turner, I don't think she scored for like 6 games, and then she scored like 5 in the end of the year, and she
Yeah.
scored 2 in the playoffs. She found it, man, and yeah.
Yep.
Um, Another big signing. Look, This has been broken, but this is the second biggest signing of the podcast is Steven is back. Ken's
I
Jefferson
know.
Lines.
Yep.
Jefferson. I mean, and Jefferson Lines as the bus. Look, good Minnesota company. Good job, Jefferson Lines. But I think it was even
Even
written somewhere in the release that Steven would be back.
Steven needs to be back. Yep. That was
I love that.
Steven was great. He made it so much fun. And
Mhm.
just like from the beginning, like the very first bus trip, he was like on the mic, just like
Yeah,
talking to us and like making sure that we were gonna have a good time. And
yeah,
it was so fun to see him get so involved with the team. And like
yeah,
when it came to like sitting on the bench with us at away games and
yeah.
like yeah, it was great.
Whoever
He
got
was
him. Did
yeah.
someone get him the kit, or did I forget? It's like eventually he had a shirt. Like he had.
Yep. I think one of the Chicago trips, Brenna
Yeah,
had, like, brought along,
yeah,
like, a hat and
yeah,
I don't know if it was a kit or if it
yeah,
was a
yeah,
shirt,
yeah,
but I know he has a kit. I
yeah,
think it says Steven on the
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Um
The story of him, for people who didn't read this story. So Steven this is one thing about the team having a partner, though. Honestly, like Jefferson Lines, I didn't realize I was doing an ad for them, but is that you have a nice bus and you have it for every game, right? So you
Yeah.
actually know
Yep.
the driver. It's not you guys driving your minivans or whatever.
Mhm.
So he'd
Mhm.
be there, and so he got super into it. And in the playoffs, there was a game where you were either down or it was tied, and he was sitting in the
Mhm.
stands. And I forget who interviewed him about this, but he was like, "I think they need me down there." And
Yeah.
his wife was like, "What?" He's like, "They need me down there," and so he came down, and then you ended up winning.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
was funny. Dude.
He's the good luck charm.
It was great,
Yeah.
and he is just a really nice guy, and he's super
He
into it.
is.
So, and
Yeah.
I don't think he knew a lot about soccer before. This team like made him into
Nope.
it.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. Awesome, but yeah, he's the best. So that was a big re-signing. The vibe. I mean, team culture on the road. You want to
Yeah.
keep the culture going. We got it. Stats are easy for me. Ken's.
Mhm.
So we always do a little bit of stats because it's
Alright.
for simple minds. I watched all the games last year. Don't
Yeah.
worry. But who were the? I want if you to know who the top 3 point scorers for Aurora were last year, and it's pretty. It's there's the top six that's kind of it's a six, and then below is like way below. So
Yeah.
there's six main people, and you could try for those too. But like we already kind of gave away.
Turner.
Yeah,
Maya Hansen, I want to say.
she's fourth. She had
Oh,
4 goals
shoot.
and 1 assist.
Stone.
Yeah,
Maybe.
she had 5 goals, and shout to Stone. I mean, she didn't get to play in the playoffs because she got
I
pulled back to
know.
college, so she probably could have got another couple goals.
So what was she? 2 or 3?
Stone is third.
Okay. Second, Mariah? No, I don't think
Mariah is
I don't
sixth.
think it's
It's you,
Mariah.
Ken's. It's you. Your modesty is
Oh, is it
showing.
actually? I just
Not remembering your production. Yeah, no, this is
Huh,
what this is what got you on the best 11. They didn't watch the games to know you were defending well. They
I
just saw
suppose.
these 4 goals, 3 assists.
Huh, okay. I didn't know that.
You snuck, by the way. It was that Morgan didn't get to play playoffs, and then you had that's what
Okay.
bumped you above
Nice.
Morgan Stone. So sorry, Stone. This summer you'll have to rehash that. But no, and then Kat Rapp ended up with 3 goals and 3 assists.
Okay.
And Mariah Wynn had 3 goals and 2 assists.
Okay.
So super
Nice.
balanced offense,
Yeah.
to be honest, and a ton of balls off the post. And so there were games where there could have been a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Addie had like 2 goals for sure.
Yeah. Kelsey had, I feel like, some crazy like there
Yeah,
were
she did have a goal, I think.
I don't know. There were a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Addie had a goal. I mean, Shelby had the opening goal.
Yep.
Of all the goals, maybe the penalty by
Yeah.
was my favorite.
Yeah. Yep. And Ariana had a header. Yeah, we had a lot of goal scorers.
The spread. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'll be interesting to see that because I think I know Morgan Turner got a cool pro opportunity after the fall,
Yeah.
but then she had a little bit of an injury, so I don't know if she would be in the time to come back. So there may be a little more some
Yeah, I
space.
think she's actually heading back there. She's heading back to Portugal like
Yeah.
next week, I believe.
So,
She's
very
been
cool.
training a little bit at PV with us, which has been fun this last week to get
Oh, cool.
train with like her and Ariana and Abby O. So that's been
Awesome.
good. Yeah. Yep.
That's nice. Yeah, there's a cluster of locals around, which is like we said,
Yeah.
for the off the field, but also for training.
Yeah.
This is a funny thing I looked up. So you're Ms. Minnesota, Ms. Soccer. It's
Yep.
called. I don't know why it's not. Maybe it is supposed to be Miss Minnesota Soccer, but the Star Tribune said that. So look, we know you as the prototypical like modern outside back. You're scoring, assisting, and defending. Once at a time, you were just a simple forward.
I was. Yeah.
How many? And my
Yeah.
confidence isn't high on this after the Aurora question because this is a long time ago. Do you know how many goals and assists you had that senior year? It was and it's only in 20 games because it's high school. It's pretty crazy.
I don't actually know, but I'm not entirely sure. I think it was quite a few though.
It's 28 goals and 12 assists, so that's two goaler assists every game, which that's what happens when potential professionals are playing their senior year in high school, I guess. But the funny thing was to look at who else was nominated in that 5.
Morgan Turner.
Yep. So Morgan was in there.
Yep. Emily Bunnell, I think.
Yep. Who she was a Gopher teammate of yours for a while, right?
Yep.
And then played
Morgan.
at Seattle. Yep. The other 2 I did not recognize. I'm sure they played somewhere, probably.
Yeah.
But, Temi Carta from Lakeville.
Oh, yep. She ended up playing basketball actually in college.
Well, go ahead, get that NIL money, Temi. And then Kaylee Josephs of Rochester, Mayo. So, and then there was a single A nominee, a teammate of yours too.
Single A that year.
Think of a private. Yeah, she's a cake eater, so the private school. Ari Del Moral was at.
Yep.
So I'm like, hey, look, Star Tribune voters. I don't know who votes for. Good job. You did a pretty good job picking the. They held up.
It's funny because we were all on me, Emily, Morgan, and Ariana were all on the same club team.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. That's why I always assume. Even with Aurora, you must have had a couple you'd either faced in club, you'd played at MTN, you'd played like it's relatively small. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite place to play in college? We'll exclude ELR because that's a gorgeous place. We love it to death. But whether you could do both for the field part of it and the trip. part of it? Because
Yeah.
that's different.
Okay. I think favorite field is probably Michigan.
Yeah.
Um, and it was fun to play against Mare there as well, so that's like
Yeah.
an
She's a
additional
killer, dude.
bonus. Favorite trip was, I don't know if it counts, but my sophomore year when we made the NCAA tournament,
Yeah. Yeah.
getting to like travel to Auburn and then go to
Yeah.
win and then go to UCLA the next weekend. That
Oh,
was,
I didn't realize. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's cool.
that was a fun series of events because I mean I don't know that we were in school the whole month because we were gone for Big Ten tournament and then
Yeah.
NCAA tournament and then
Yeah.
NCAA tournament again.
Yeah.
That was a fun stretch of events.
Well, and you had hit the PK in the Big Ten tournament, right?
Yep,
So like
it was
that's
Penn
cool. And
State.
your confidence sky high after that, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. What about I wanted to ask you about playing this summer. I just thought of this because it's just I thought it was bizarre and I don't know if it messed with the players playing in Green Bay with that big video screen. So it's a minor league baseball. You on the play on the left though, don't you? Well, yeah, either way, one half you'd be
Yeah.
they
Yep.
it's the whole length of the middle of the field because it would be the outfield.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. To me, it looked like imposing or distracting because it's like a 10-foot tall video board that's like 40 feet.
Yeah.
Was it weird? Or did it not
I
phase
didn't notice that so much as like it was just so weird playing on that field because the
sight lines?
lines, like the baseball lines, like didn't line up. So I'd like start running down
Yeah,
like
yeah,
with the grass,
yeah,
the way it
yeah,
was cut. That was like a hard
yeah.
field to get used to playing on.
And
It was
and
so weird.
orientation of seeing baseball stands because they don't line up parallel.
Yeah.
It's different sight line, but
Yeah.
it was a cool environment in terms of like fans and
Yeah.
broadcasts and everything.
It
Yeah,
was. It was cool. It
yeah,
was definitely like a weird
yeah.
playing experience.
Different layout for sure. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
have it'll be fun to see how many people go over there again this year. What
Yeah.
was we mentioned I mentioned playing for you are it's pretty cool to be honest. You played for two women D1 coaches and now a
Mhm.
woman staff, like,
Yeah.
too rare at all levels of the game. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, we talked about Nicole and her assistants. You played for Coach Galan for a few years and then you stayed, for your super year with Aaron Chastain, who's
Yeah.
still here at the U. What were the main differences between them in terms of, you playing for those coaches at the U?
Between the Aurora staff and my
No, just between Steph and Aaron, like
I think there's quite a few I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question necessarily. I think I found myself in a different role going
yeah,
into my season with Aaron than I had with Steph, and
yeah,
um, I think playing as an outside back
yeah,
is where I am the most comfortable on the ball. Like I like to get the ball faced up. I like to
mhm,
be able to join the attack and like
yeah,
pretty good at serving
yeah,
the ball in. And so I think that just fits my skill set a little bit better. Like I'm
yeah.
not necessarily somebody who's gonna try and get the ball in behind and like
Dribble
not
you,
gonna
or yeah,
outrun
right,
you or
right,
like dribble you 1v1. Like
right,
that's just not who I am as a player
right,
necessarily. And I think I've grown in that a lot training at
right,
PB because that's like
right,
the nature of what we do there.
totally,
But I think I was able to play to my strengths a little bit more
yeah,
going into my 5th year at Minnesota. And so I think you could see that in my confidence as a player as well, just because I knew what to do and I knew what was expected and I was comfortable and confident in my abilities to
yeah.
execute what was expected of me.
Yeah. Well, and in terms of potential as a pro, right? So it's like she saw the path of what your peak, could
Yeah.
be in that because it is like, yeah, maybe I am a good college forward. Can I be a pro forward? Maybe not. But
Yeah.
that's a really when I said prototypical because it is so sometimes
Yeah.
it happens just because a player can run a lot and they aren't
Yeah.
maybe finishing, but it's for someone like you it kind of puts you in the best spots to score anyway. You
Yeah.
scored the most
Yeah.
goals when you played defense
I know
in
Maya
college.
actually gave me a hard time for that a little bit at Minnesota. She was like, I guess we just needed to move you farther back. And I was like,
Well, it's because
yeah.
you don't want the ball in the box. It's we joke,
Yeah.
but like we put in the stream in the post room yesterday. I put the highlights you made. I'm sure for like pro prospects from the Gophers, and it's all, you know, it's bangers. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So it's funny. I know so when Aaron came in, first day of training, we do fitness test and we scrimmage
Yeah.
field,
Oh,
like full field.
all right.
And like that's just kind of what we did when I was there anyway. It might have changed now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um I played the first half as a forward
Yeah.
and then I played the second half as an outside back and I never played forward again.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it just kind of how it worked out. But
Yeah.
definitely worked out better for
Yeah.
me.
Well, and clearly, like you took that right into Aurora in terms
Mhm.
of, you know, progressing and doing all those same things, and you had the ball a lot. Yeah, like you know,
Yeah.
you have the ball a lot. It'd be either, you know, Cha in the middle or you kind of on the outside, being a lot of
Yeah.
the movement of the ball.
Mhm.
What who do you have a favorite player? Or like, and if not, or do you have a player you try to play like?
Um I like watching pro soccer in general.
Yeah,
I really
mhm,
like watching the national team,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
I like watching Kelly O'Hara a
yeah,
lot, I think, and like Sofia Huerta is another really fun
right,
outside back to watch. I feel like she joins the attack a ton, and so I kind
yeah,
of try and play like that to the best that I can. But
mhm,
I like, I do always find myself watching the outside backs on
yeah,
different teams and
yeah,
comparing
yeah,
myself and my game and what I bring versus them. So it's fun. Those two are definitely my the two outside backs that I watch the most for sure.
yeah. Nice. Well, the Women's World Cup will be good times this summer. The Olympics
I
were
know.
brutal. They were brutal. So I did my best with those, but that
Yeah.
was a tough time. So that'll
Yep.
be fun to watch. Yeah, that's the race for spots on that team will be brutal too.
I
That's
know,
gonna be fun.
especially with all the younger players coming in.
It's gonna
Like,
be some big players who don't make it. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah,
it'll be good. I'm excited.
I know. Yeah, good problem to have. Um,
Yeah.
and it'll be kind of after. Well, it's like tail end of your
Yeah. It is
season.
like very end,
Yeah,
I think.
that'll be good. Yeah. What do you think about there's something happening in men's soccer this summer which is kind of cool, and with all the different women's leagues in Minnesota, you could envision something like this, but like a super cup where the top Minnesota team from each league would play each other just at like the beginning of
Oh,
the league. So like,
okay.
you know, for instance, last year Salvo won the NPSL Northern Conference
Yeah.
and then you guys won like the W League.
Yeah.
Like what would you think of that, playing like the beginning of the year, kicking off of like, it's, you know, a exhibition or whatever of that.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I know there are a lot of former Gophers on that team, and
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think it'd be a fun matchup.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they like reached. I think they reached out about playing us last year, but it was like
yeah,
right as we were about to start playing games. It's
yeah,
like, well, now we can't. But
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure if we'll get some friendlies in or not. It would be. I think it'd be cool to play some of the local teams.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
A
see.
lot of interplayer rivalries, a lot of teammates,
Hmm.
a lot of
Hmm.
and the standard is, you know, it really is the thing that sets Aurora apart. I mean, you're a good team, but I mean, it's all of the it's like it's playing at the Viking Stadium, it's off the
Yeah,
field. In terms of the talent, it's very similar players, you know.
yeah,
So
it is.
it would be fun to watch. But you know, the
Yeah,
thing about Salvo and MTA and those teams is sometimes like 10 of those girls have been on the same team for 10
yeah,
years. So
yeah.
it is like, yeah, they should have pretty good chemistry, you know, a little
Yep.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
very fun. Yeah. Well, and speaking on that, because I know you played MTA, I know you also played some of the other local teams that have
Mhm.
WPSL. We
Yeah.
have now the UPSL. So I did want to just end this by saying, for everyone who supports us, we are Patreon supported, and you're going to see myself and Matt and potentially other people, probably former players, on with us doing things at all these games. And so if you want to support, Matt's a crazy man. He's flying to some of these flying to some of these games. Um, and so your support does help get us to do that. So if you want to support, you can go to any of our socials and see the Patreon link for that. We appreciate everything you do in that regards. Ken's, thank you so much for joining. This was
Yeah.
fun. It's getting exciting seeing the players come in. Yeah, I think there's like, you know, 5 Aurora retweets on our feed right
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah. No, I'm so excited for season to get started. So
awesome.
yeah. Me too.
Do you have any secret players you want to reveal just to end, if you know
Nope.
anyone who's coming up?
I am not. I don't want to get in trouble.
But you do know
I do know the team. Yep, we have a group chat.
the whole team.
Yeah,
Oh man.
more or
This
less the whole team, I think. So
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
and then I'm sure there's probably who I mean, up until May, if there's some random special player, I'm sure it could still, you never know, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Who knows? Very
Yeah.
cool. May 8th is the day that Pentz reports, along with what players again? Who's coming?
So, no,
I don't
the
know.
ones who've been announced.
We're not getting Ken's in trouble. Look, when this is how serious Nicole treats this. When I was at Open Trats, like, can I just look at who's at the tryout? And I'm like, who's there? And she's like, no. And I was
Yeah.
like, I could identify some from look. And then, and even Matt asked if he could look at it. And she was like, no.
Nope.
This is big time.
Pretty lockdown.
All right. Awesome, Pentz. Thank you so much for your time. And
thanks for having me on.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.